Okay, I am live. I'm just going to go over a few of the fights from UFC 203. I was hoping to get a guest host to talk about this on what we would call the first episode of the Fly and Brian Show. I'm getting ready to resurrect a podcast and move in that direction. I kind of want to copy the Co-Main Event podcast where I would recap the previous night's events, look forward to the next week's events, and then talk about some odds and ends in round 3. And then just saying shit and are you fucking kidding me? Because I love that podcast and I think that I can do some contributing to some good stuff on that. But for right now, I'm just going to go by myself. Let's talk about UFC 203. It just happened from Cleveland, Ohio, the Buckeye State, where Stipe Miocic defeated Alistair the Reem over Reem via KO punches in the first round with just 33 seconds to go in that very first round. It's really fun because prior to this, for some reason, we were talking about Alistair being the greatest heavyweight of all time. Why was this a topic of conversation? Going into a fight where he is the challenger. That's really interesting to me because, well, he's the challenger, but also he does have a strong standing to being one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. I think right now, even though he lost to Stipe Miocic, KO punches in the first round, as I mentioned, he does have a strong standing to be one of the top 5 heavyweights of all time. His credentials speak for themselves. He's the Dream champion. Was he a Pride champion? I know he's a K1 kickboxing champion. He's challenging for the heavyweight championship in the UFC. He beat Brock Lesnar, which, for a lot of people, that's a big deal. For me, that's not such a big deal. But anyway, Alistair Overeem falls short. He actually thought that he won the fight. He dropped Stipe Miocic. I think it was with the right hand. And then he goes in for a guillotine, and he said that Stipe tapped. Yeah, Stipe definitely tapped. But that was not the case, as Joe Rogan showed us on the replay a few times. Stipe did not tap. He was searching his arm into the guillotine choke to get out of that thing, to move into a more superior position. But you know what? In times of battle, this is the type of thing that Alistair can say that he could have got away with if Joe Rogan would not have went straight to the cameras, went straight to the replay to look at it. If Joe would have been like, okay, well, anyway, you got anything to say to the fans, then sure. Alistair could have said on Twitter, I think that Stipe tapped. And then all of us would have been questioning it. And then all of us would have been going back to the tape and looking at this fight once again. But that was not the case. It was interesting that Alistair did rock Stipe, dropped him, went in for the kill, but Stipe got back up out of that guillotine choke that we just talked about, was able to take the Reem down and get him with some ground and pound. And yes, it was a straight-up KO punches from the top, ground and pound punches. Now, going into the fight, this is something that I think that we need to talk about, is that Stipe weighed 5 pounds more than he had ever weighed in before. And that's interesting because Reem was saying that Stipe had been enjoying being a champion a little bit too much. And I made my prediction for this fight as soon as Stipe knocked out Verdun. The next morning after I woke up from my hangover, I made that prediction video because I knew that this fight was going to happen with Stipe and Reem, and I wanted to get the maximum views possible. And I was questioning my pick when Reem started talking about Stipe loving being the champion just a little too much. And when Stipe came in 5 pounds overweight, and then we also saw on the embeddeds that Stipe was going to car shows. He's just hanging out with his wife, I think now. It used to be his fiance. It's his wife now. But no, Stipe's hands were just a little too quick. Reem's chin is really suspect. He's had a shit ton of fights. It doesn't just come back like that. And I was correct. And Stipe had a little better chin, had a little quicker hands. He had the better on the ground, and Reem's chin was a little bit suspect. Let's go to the Twitter machine, and you tell me if you were at all surprised by this. I know that at least one person's watching, so that's pretty cool. If you're watching the show, hit me with before the bald man speaks, hashtag BTBMS, or just hit me up on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ. Get anything in, get me with your questions, and I will try to answer everything. Anyway, so the main event, pretty fantastic. We had Stipe Miocic. I think that he needs a nickname. We're going to call him the Fireman or the Fire Hose, anything like that. I think that he needs a nickname. He must move right on down the card. Fabricio Cavalo Verdun versus Travis Rousey Brown. This was an interesting fight because right away, Fabricio Verdun came out and he was hitting Travis Brown with all kinds of crazy techniques. A jumping side kick to the face, like straight away. That was very interesting. He went for a scissor hook takedown, like the scissor takedown a few times in the fight. Jumping techniques, flying knees, spinning techniques, spinning heel kicks, all over the place from Fabricio, trying to hit Travis Brown. And he really got into Travis Brown's head. And I found that to be very interesting because if he wouldn't have gotten Travis Brown's head, I feel like Travis could have had an edge in this fight. But after Fabricio in the first round threw all those crazy techniques, Travis Brown was gun shy in rounds 2 and 3. And that was very interesting. Also, what we need to talk about in that fight was when Fabricio threw an overhand right. Travis Brown went to block it, and he got a finger jammed or a finger broken or something, and he called timeout. But there's no timeouts in fighting. But the referee allowed it to happen. He said, all right, Travis, you go ahead, man. You go ahead and take that timeout. I don't know what you got going on, man, but Hawaii love, brother. You go check it out. So we went and got it checked out. And then the doctor was like, hey, do you think that you want to keep fighting? And he's like, yeah, I do. Then why the fuck did you stop the fight, you crazy bastard? That's what I'm thinking about. Anyway, Fabricio Verdun got a unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-27, which would mean that there was a 10-8 in there, I guess. And then also 30-27, all for Fabricio Cavalo Verdun. A lot of people were thinking that Fabricio Verdun would get the next title shot at Stipe Miocic, a rematch, if he were to have a convincing performance in this fight. I don't think so. I think who deserves the next title shot at the heavyweight championship of the world against Stipe, the fire hose man, the fireman, Miocic, is Cain Velasquez. If Stipe can defend against Cain Velasquez, that sure would be something. If he does defend the belt twice, I think we need to talk about Stipe Miocic being in that list for greatest heavyweights of all time. I know he doesn't have the credentials or all of the reasons to call him the greatest of all time, but the belt has never been defended 3 times, right? So if he beats Cain, who has defended the belt twice and also had the belt twice, we need to start talking about him being the greatest, or at least in the top 5. However, on the flip side, if Cain wins and he gets the belt for the 3rd time, I think that cements himself as the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. Let's move on down to the fight that a lot of people were looking forward to. And on a group that I'm in on Facebook, it said that this is the only fight you're tuning into. And I said, are you fucking kidding me? It's the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World fight card, and you think I'm tuning in for Mickey Gall versus CM Punk? You, my friend, are on drugs. Well, I mean, drugs aren't all that bad, right? But okay, so you, my friend, are a dumbass who's also on drugs. Mickey Gall took down CM Punk within, 15 seconds, I think. Just steamrolled him, got him there, was hitting him with some vicious ground and pound right away. CM Punk defended pretty well for a while, but then Mickey Gall was able to sink in a rear naked choke at 2:14 of the very first round. No, it was 2:14 left in the very first round. What's going on here? Let's see if we got any questions. Nobody's got any questions. Okay, well, let's just keep moving on here. What's interesting about this is once the fight was over, yes, Mickey Gall won in pretty convincing fashion. He was fantastic on the microphone. He called out Super Sage Northcutt, which is a fight I think that we ought to make. Both guys are coming off of the reality show TV series of looking for a fight with Dana White, formerly the Sweet Tooth, or something the Tooth, Nick the Tooth, and Fat Matt Serra, which is interesting because recently Nick the Tooth had been released from the series because Matt Serra grappled him, and Matt Serra has a black belt, Nick the Tooth has a purple belt, and Matt Serra whooped his ass in a BJJ competition, just kind of like messing around. Nick the Tooth took exception and bitched at Dana White, basically was being a real bitch about it. Dana White kicked him off the show. But anyway, I digress. Mickey Gall versus CM Punk. So Mickey Gall called out Super Sage Northcutt. I think that both guys are off that show. I think that is a very fun fight that we could look forward to. Mickey Gall now is 3-0. CM Punk moves to 0-1. But even though Mickey Gall was really convincing in his post-fight interview, we're calling out Super Sage Northcutt, saying that he's coming for it. He cursed a bunch, which the crowd really enjoyed. CM Punk was also really good with his post-fight interview. He said, hey, look, man, I might have lost, but I am not down and I'm not out. I took this challenge, and even though it was a steep mountain that I had to climb, and even though I failed, I will not stay down. Children of this world, people will tell you that you stay down, you get right back up, and you climb that mountain. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but the post-fight interview from CM Punk, it sure was awe-inspiring. It was nice. You don't often see a guy get his ass whooped. There was no moment in that fight when CM Punk had a glimpse of hope. But in the post-fight interview, he was magnificent. And he says that he's going to fight again. He said, you might think this is the last time you see me, but this is not the end of the road. You will see me again. So we're going to see CM Punk fight again in the UFC. Why am I confident in that? You're probably asking. Well, the guy's a celebrity. Most of the pay-per-view buys for this event are probably coming from this man, and the UFC loves money. So they're going to match him up again. So we're probably going to see a future episode of Looking for a Fight where Dana White goes out and finds an 0-0 guy who wins a fight and was like, hey, guy, would you like to fight CM Punk? A little bit of money in it for you. $10,000 to show, $10,000 to win. Even though CM Punk probably got like $2 million for that or something. I know the guy's not out there for money, but still, what I would like to see this next time we find somebody for CM Punk is, instead of finding a 22-year-old man, however old Mickey Gall is, how about we find a 38-year-old man who wins his first fight? Let's look for one of those. I know this is crazy. I don't like professional wrestling at all. I think it's stupid. I liked it when I was a child, and I think that children should like it because it's fake violence. But you're a 30-year-old man, and you like, whatever, you like it, and that's fine. I have my vices too. So anyway, I think that we should find a 38-year-old man to fight CM Punk. I think that would make a lot of sense. And I actually want to get CM Punk a victory. Maybe he could retire at 1-1, and that would make some sense. Do we really want to see this guy go 0-3 in mixed martial arts competition? Do we? Do we really want that? No. This guy is great for our favorite sport. This guy's bringing eyes to our favorite sport. People like Nick Lenz, way down there in the prelims, who had a pretty decent showing against Michael Mcbride. He's not making many dollars, but bringing in eyes from CM Punk are going to make this man more dollars. So we need CM Punk to be at least a decent hope for a victory to bring in more dollars. Let's move right on down. Done talking about CM Punk. Too much time on that, actually. Jimmy Altera Rivera, bantamweight fight between Uriah Faber. There was not a moment in this fight when Uriah Faber showed a glimpse of winning. Jimmy Rivera beat him with leg kicks, basically, counters, the harder striking. The only thing that Uriah Faber had was like moving a bunch. Moving a bunch. Here we go. Moving a bunch. Catching a fucking right hand from Jimmy Rivera on the face. And that's basically how that fight went down. 3 rounds, 15 minutes of that. Leg kicks. Wow. Uriah Faber's leg got taken out from him early. And Jimmy Rivera looks like the real deal. What do we want to see next from Altera Rivera? Altera Rivera. Sorry for the flub there. What I want to see from Altera is either Garbrandt, who I actually think Garbrandt's going to get a title shot next, or TJ Killshot Dillashaw. Dillashaw does not have a distinct opponent lined up for him, right? Altera just beat the guy who fought for the title last, and he won a decision. So I think that I would like to see Altera fight either TJ Dillashaw or Garbrandt. And if UFC is going to be like, fuck you, Flying Brian J., you're not getting either of those options, then I want to see Altera versus the winner of John the Magician Dodson versus John Hands of Stone Lineker. Any of those three matchups, fantastic. And then you're going to say, oh, none of those? Well, then I guess we could see him against Brian Caraway. I think that he definitely beats Caraway, but we say that about Caraway every time. He doesn't have a style that's convincingly going to win. If you're going to pick a fight, you're like, well, Caraway's got wrestling. Because the other guy has striking, and yet Caraway still wins. So that's fucking crazy. Let's move on down. Jessica Andrade versus Joanne Calderwood. JoJo. Hello, I'm going to fight Jessica Andrade. Strawweight fight. It's going to be fun. I'm really good at fighting. So let's just fight. Hope it doesn't go to the ground. Because if it goes to the ground, then Jessica Andrade's gonna whoop my ass. Yeah, Jessica Andrade whooped her ass. It was a pretty close fight on the feet, but Jessica Andrade got this thing to the mat, controlled Joanne for a little while, and then sunk in a submission guillotine choke, round number 1, 4 minutes and 38 seconds into the contest. So we're done with the main card. Let's see on the Twitter machine if we have any questions. No questions. Okie doke. No comments, no questions. If you want to get in a comment or a question, you want to hear me talk about anything in particular, you just hit me up on the old Twitter at Flying Brian J. Let's keep on cruising down the card real quickly. Then we'll get done here. As I mentioned before I started this show, is I have drank quite a few beers, and I'm looking to start a podcast back up, but it's going to be on Sundays. Be sober. I want to call it like Hair of the Dog podcast, something like that. I'll have a co-host, of course, to bounce some ideas off of. Should be fun. We'll have listener mail. The first round, we'll be talking about the fight card that was previous. Second round, fight card coming up. Third round, we'll be talking about MMA news that's pertinent. And then, are you fucking kidding me? And just saying shit. So, Betcha Correia versus Jessica I. If I were Ben Folks, I would be talking about, are you fucking kidding me? UFC Cleveland judges. But really, Betcha Correia versus Jessica I, split decision. A lot of people thought I won. I scored it for I, but here's the thing. Every single round was razor thin. You couldn't have chose who won, right? I would need to see stats. I would need to see a little bit more than what I saw to pick a winner. I mean, every G-dang round could have been 10-10. We just have a draw 30-30 every damn time. Betch was landing some harder strikes. Jessica I was using her pressure. Neither girl is going to be contending for the belt again soon, right? I think Jessica I is probably done at the UFC. She's 0-4. She's on a 4-fight losing streak. She lost in her hometown. I picked her basically because it was her hometown. Betcha Correia, big ol' ass. Big ol' win for her. Got some big ol' booze. Let's move on. Brad Tavares, Caio Magalhães. Split decision. That fight was boring as fuck. Brad Tavares won by landing a lot more strikes, but Caio Magalhães controlled the distance, controlled the grappling exchanges, even though it didn't go to the ground. Clinch exchanges against the fence. That fight was pretty boring. Nick Lenz against Michael Mcbride. Michael McBride came in here on 9 days' notice, and Nick Lenz didn't look that fantastic. Yes, he got a TKO from punches with, like, what, 43 seconds to go in round number 2, I think it was. But it just wasn't that impressive. I think that he should have taken this guy out earlier. This guy controlled some of the grappling exchanges against Nick Lenz, and Nick Lenz is known as a grappling guy. I had somebody on my Twitter say that, well, now I know why Nick Lenz was ducking BJ Penn. Obviously, the dude's joking, but Nick Lenz did not look great. And I think that in the future, if Nick Lenz is facing an opponent who has the reach advantage, who has any striking credentials whatsoever, coupled with some takedown defense, we're going to need to fade Nick Lenz. Yes, he did get this victory, guy on 9 days' notice, but think about if Michael McDonald had a full fight camp, well, then we also have to think about if Nick Lenz had a full fight camp. But I just was not that impressed with Nick Lenz getting the victory over Michael McDonald. I expect big things against Michael in the future. Dude has obviously some solid BJJ skills, even though Nick Lenz controlled some of those moments. Move on down, lightweight fight, Drew Dober, Jason Gonzalez. Drew Dober looked absolutely fucking fantastic. Nebraska represent. Nebraska went undefeated today. First, they beat the Cowboys from Wyoming, and then Drew Dober TKO'd Jason Gonzalez early in round number 1. There are going to be a few people that are going to be talking about Drew Dober kicking Jason right in the dick early on. That changed the course of the fight. But according to Fightnomics, a person who takes a shot to the dick, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the outcome of the fight. It's basically 50-50. There are no statistics that say the person who gets kicked in the dick wins or loses. So I think that Drew Dober had Jason Gonzalez's number the whole time. We have to remember that Drew Dober knocked out Jamie Varner. Now, I know that Jamie Varner had some issues, but we need to be thinking about that. Drew Dober has some solid Muay Thai skills, and he did knock out Jamie Varner. Now, that's a pretty big credential. Now, the first fight of the night, we're already down to it, was on the Fight Pass prelims. Welterweight fight, Yancy Medeiros versus Sean Spencer. Now, a lot of people were picking Sean Spencer because he has some decent striking skills. But this is a man who lost to Cathal Pendred. Holy shit, how are you picking somebody that loses to Cathal Pendred over anybody is what I'm talking about. Yancy Medeiros looked pretty damn good. What he did in the first round was actually lose a 10-9 first round, but he did land a big head kick that seemed to wobble Sean Spencer. Second round, early on, it was early on. Early on in the first round, he rocked Sean Spencer with the same left high kick, pow, right to the dome, locked in a rear naked choke. Rather than going for the ground and pound, first he went for a rear naked choke, then he switched it to the back, First he went for the guillotine, then he switched it, went to the back, got that rear naked choke. Yancy Medeiros, welterweight debut, successful. It was pretty fantastic. Now, I don't expect him to contend with guys like Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I think Cowboy Cerrone would mop the floor with Yancy Medeiros, but we should be able to see some pretty fantastic and fun fights from this guy in the future. Now, we're at the end of the show. We're going to be talking about what grade would I give this entire fight card, and you know what? For some reason, I feel like since the last fight card, which was UFC Hamburg, it was a daytime show on UFC Fight Pass. Since that time, I've been missing UFC, and so I had a real hankering for some violence. So I think that right there has influenced my pick for a grade on this card just a little bit. So I'm going to go with really, a straight up B. I want to give it a B+, but I'm going to go with a B on this fight card. Now, Jimmy Rivera versus Faber was a decision, and sometimes decisions are a little bit lackluster. But no, I was really impressed with Jimmy Rivera, so that gave the card a little bit notch up. Fabricio Verdun versus Travis Brown was, at times a little bit like, come on, let's do some shit here. But really fun fight with Fabricio throwing a bunch of wild techniques. Also, we're seeing a heavyweight fight at the highest level go to a decision, so that right there was pretty interesting. We had Jessica Andrade throwing out some really cool shit. Betcha Correa versus Jessica I. Now, there were no momentum swings. It was all just even the whole way through. But that was a fun fight as well. Brad Tavares versus Kyle Magariesh. Low point in the entire fight card. So I'm giving the thing a B on a scale from F to A. Tell me what you think about it in the comment section down below or on Twitter if you're watching. And so as for performance bonuses, I have to give one to Stipe. I think that UFC obviously gives fighters later on the card bonus. So Stipe Miocic for a KO on Reem in the first round, he definitely gets an extra 50 grand. Mickey Gall, I think this is a guy who needs a full-time training camp in order to really turn himself into a full-time mixed martial artist, and we can see the full potential from this guy. You're finishing a guy that a lot of people are tuning in to the pay-per-view to watch in the first round with a rear naked choke. Mickey Gall, you get an extra $50,000 for a performance of the night. As for fight of the night, I'm not going to give one. I'm also going to give performance of the night bonuses to Jessica Andrade and Drew Dober. So no fight of the night. There wasn't anyone that was real back and forth, real exciting, really got your blood pumping, even if you didn't pick the person or whatever. But I'm giving 4 performance bonuses with Stipe, Mickey Gall, Drew Dober, and Jessica Andrade. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about my performance bonuses? What do you guys think about the show? And I'll see you on the next video where I will be talking about, hopefully with a guest, about the next event. Let me just look that up really, really quick. Oh, yeah. We've got UFC Fight Night 94, Poirier versus Johnson. Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Michael Johnson. Uriah Primetime Hall versus Derek Brunson. Now, before we get out of here, I'm going to give you an early prediction for the co-main event of that fight card. UFC Fight Night 94. It's on Fox Sports 1, taking place September 17th from the State Farm Arena in Hidalgo, Texas. So let's just talk about Uriah Primetime Hall versus Derek Brunson. Uriah Hall, everyone's going to be trying to sell you on this guy with his spinning heel kick on the Ultimate Fighter live season, or what was it, season 15? I don't know what season it was. Anyway, this guy does have some fantastic potential. Or the spinning back kick against Gegard the Dreamcatcher Mousasi. The thing about it is, if you look back at his fight against Gegard Mousasi in the first round, he was taken down, he was grounded out, and that could possibly happen against Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson out-wrestled Yoel, Soldier of God Romero, and one doesn't simply out-wrestle a Cuban silver medalist Olympic wrestler. But Derek Brunson did that for about 12 minutes before getting knocked out by Yoel, Soldier of God Romero. Also, Uriah Hall does not do well when he is pressured. Derek Brunson is extremely good with pressure. Just look at his fight against Smiling Sam Alvey. He just sprinted right at Smiling Sam and just threw caution to the wind, punches after punches after punches, ended up getting a TKO victory over Smiling Sam. I don't see many ways Uriah Hall wins this fight. I am going to be picking Derek Brunson inside the distance. I'll be waiting to see some odds on that. That's my only pick going forward on this fight card. Let's just talk about Dustin Poirier versus Michael Johnson. Maybe I have a pick on this as well. Dustin the Diamond Poirier has been looking absolutely fucking ferocious at 150 pounds. He's facing Michael Johnson, who is really dependent on keeping the distance and outstriking his opponents. He is not going to be able to do that against Dustin Poirier, who is the way more ferocious, vicious fighter in this fight. I'm going to be picking Dustin the Diamond Poirier inside the distance. Michael McDonald, he basically just uses hands. Dustin Poirier is going to be using his hands and feet, both his hands and his feet to his advantage. He's going to close the distance on Michael McDonald. He's going to land. Here's the thing. I keep saying here's the thing. I think that Dustin Poirier is going to land a combination similar to Cowboy Cerrone on the horror story. Dustin Poirier on Michael Johnson. It's going to be similar. It's going to get a finish just like that. Hold me to that. Let me know what you think of this style of show. Let me know if you want to hear a podcast similar to this, only with a guest, where I talk about the previous event, the next event, only sober. Could be interesting. I just wanted to fill this time. I didn't see Before the Bald Man Speaks from my good friend Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence. He asked me to do the show. I'm looking for a guest, or I'm looking for a co-host. So that's what I want to do. I want to find a good co-host who I think meshes well with me, who will have similar opinions as I, and similar time frame as I. Central time zone is a pretty big deal for me. I don't want to work around anyone's time zone schedule or anything like that. Anyway, give the video a thumbs up. I'm also going to be putting this on iTunes so you can listen to it later, perhaps, if it doesn't turn out like a pile of shit. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, guys. Before I close it down, let's look at the Twitter machine. Do I have any notifications? The Love Train wants to see CM Punk go 0-3. That's a cringeworthy train wreck. Oh, yeah, Shane. Shane says that he wants CM Punk to go 0-3. That's a cringeworthy train wreck that he refused to look away from. Yeah, I mean, shit. It's fun. It's fun because I am like an MMA elitist, right? I don't train or anything like that, but this is my favorite sport to watch. I don't watch any other sport. I don't watch professional wrestling, anything like that. But if CM Punk goes 0-3, you would be like, hey, look, man, this sport's the real deal. You can't just come in here and think you're going to be blasting through motherfuckers. But I don't know. I think for my favorite sport that I need to see some success from the CM Punk, bring in some eyes. Maybe he can go 1-2, whatever. He goes 0-2 and then wins the last one. Yeah, against some old motherfucker. Anyway, once again, give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next one. Make sure you keep your hands up so you don't get knocked out. That's from the parting shot. I'll see you guys on my next video. Namaste.